Welcome to the series Apprenticeship Dialogue by India Apprenticeship Forum. Our endeavor has been to generate awareness and interest in apprenticeship with the employers, the youth, and to influence the regulators. With the key focus of the government on skilling the youth, a lot of action has happened in the area of apprenticeship, and more is expected to happen as the finance minister announced the further reforms in her budget speech earlier in the year. Today, we have with us Mr. Arindam Lahiri, the CEO of the Automotive Skill Development Council, which is responsible for facilitating skilling initiatives to prepare the current and the future workforce in the sector. Welcome, Arindam, and thank you for joining us today to share your views, current trends, and initiative undertaken by the Sector Skill Council to scale up apprenticeship in the country.
Thank you. My pleasure to be part of this initiative. And apprenticeship is something that we are completely passionate about at ASDC. And therefore, it's always a pleasure to talk about apprenticeship.
Great, wonderful. Arindam, what are the current skill gaps which exist in the automotive sector? What are these skills which are in demand? You can possibly mention about which are these evergreen skills and some of the specialized skills which are coming up because of the whole advent of Industry 4.0. And how does the future looks like?
Yeah. So, looking at that entire value chain in the automotive sector, the challenge has been, the skills that have been in great demand have been more on the after-sales service front, essentially because it requires a very large number of people to tackle that entire population of vehicles. And the biggest challenge is that since automotive integrates a lot of different technologies from different areas, therefore the car that you see on the road today is going to be significantly different 2-3 years down the line. So obviously, as you have generations of vehicles, and in today's context, the technologies are changing very fast. So therefore, that's one of the areas. Within manufacturing, there are some very evergreen skills still, which is very sought after, which I would like to mention. One is, of course, automotive involves a lot of assembly. So one of the biggest job roles that we do in terms of work training, as well as in fact overall in apprenticeship, is this profile, which is like an assembly technician or an assembly operator, either at the vehicle manufacturer or even at the auto component manufacturer, essentially. And then, of course, supported by areas like welding, press shops, because there's a lot of sheet metal which goes into the vehicle, and also plastics and machining, the CNC machining kind of areas. Some of the future areas that we are seeing a lot of trend and a lot of interest is, of course, this whole space around electric vehicles. So electric vehicles is not only about electric vehicles, but also the content of electronics in these vehicles, because these are like connected, somewhat autonomous in certain ways. We are seeing a surge in demand of candidates who are in automotive electronics, also in terms of areas like automation, etc., because some of these work is very precision, and it's very repetitive precision work where you need a fair amount of automation. Now, within automation, you basically need human intervention in terms of design of automation, maintenance of automation, monitoring of automation, and therefore you need specialized manpower for all of these areas. So these are some of my overall thoughts in terms of what is required in the industry.
Okay, so what about the Industry 4.0? How are you preparing for that? Are these also the skills for future? What would come under the Industry 4.0? What skills would cover there?
So as I mentioned, the automation. So Industry 4.0 is nothing but a progression in terms of how the automation is kind of progressing. So when I say automation, it's a loose word. So obviously it also includes applications of Industry 4.0. There's already a discussion in the Western world which is talking about Industry 5.0. as well, further cyber physical interactions that are happening. So basically manpower who would be trained on areas like IIoTs, sensors, programming around that space. 3D printing is picking up now. Okay. So some of these, discrete technology areas kind of get assimilated into what makes Industry 4.0 work. The adoption is much higher in the vehicle manufacturers. It's not as much in the component manufacturers. But we hope that in future, as more and more digitalization or manufacturing gets smarter, I think these requirements will be much more.
Sorry, but what is the current assessment of the skill gap? If you were to give a figure or a number, what would be in the sector at this point of time? And what is the kind of future intake what we're looking at in the sector for the skilled manpower?
Right. So if I look at the overall engagement in terms of labor force related to auto industry, it's in the range of vicinity of about 30 million people who work in the Indian automotive industry. 32 million, give or take a few million here and there. This is as per the original, the first skill gap study that we kind of still refer to, which is the automotive mission plan, released by DHI, which is for up to 2026. It was expected that there will be a requirement of about 65 million manpower in this industry, with a certain growth number. Now, given certain challenges, etc., we did a skill gap study in 2019. So by that time, because the automotive industry was degrowing a little bit and pandemic had not set in still at that point in time. But we realized that the number will be more, probably seems like about 50 to 52 million kind of a number that we will be looking at. Now, if you come to specifically in the automotive manufacturing area, and especially areas like Industry 4.0, we do see about 10 to 15% of this overall manpower is what is engaged in, what we call as pure manufacturing in terms of people. So while some of the routine jobs are expected to move away from the industry, we do expect some amount of newer jobs. We do see a lot of growth in the what is traditionally called engineering jobs or design or development roles. So, the other day we were in one meeting and somebody said very nicely that in order to make in India, we need to design in India.
True.
And the design manpower requirements so far has been very low in the industry because the base has been very low. So we do see an upsurge around those areas. And that is something, again, we are gearing up, especially in the emerging areas of the automation, the Industry 4.0 and electric vehicles, which are two areas which are picking up speed in the industry.
Great. So what are the initiatives currently the ASDC has taken to bridge the skill gap, and how does it prepare the future workforce?
So we actually started a little late in terms of promoting apprenticeship, because we started only in 2019 after some more amendments had set in terms of making the scheme and the law actually very, very flexible for industry to adopt in terms of optional trade. Traditionally, if you look at in manufacturing side, automotive industry has been a leader in apprenticeship. Some of the big names in apprenticeships are from automotive industry, whether you talk about a Maruti Suzuki or Tata Motors or Hero or whatever. So these employ a fairly large number of manpower in the manufacturing space in an apprenticeship role. However, the two larger segments beyond the vehicle manufacturers, which is the supplier base, which is the component manufacturers, and the dealer space, which includes the service technicians, sales, etc. These are areas which haven't picked up, which had not started with apprenticeship. Over the last 1.5 years, we've made significant progress into the component manufacturing space in terms of the manufacturing, the suppliers in the manufacturing sector. I think they have started realizing the value of apprenticeship. We've been quite successful in partnership with our parent organization, ACMA, in terms of promoting the same. We've also initiated work with the dealership association, but we still don't see enough traction as yet. But we do, but that may have been also been accounted for by the pandemic and stuff like that. But we do see a great opportunity in that space as well.
So, but you mentioned about that it's the component manufacturers are now kind of picking up or gearing up for apprenticeship, and we usually see that these component manufacturers are some medium enterprises, or they could be even small enterprises as well. And in India, we've seen that it's the MSME sector which still kind of lags in terms of the apprenticeship engagement. What are the possible reasons for them for not getting into apprenticeship, and how do we improve, to get them started, because they have a huge potential to scale the apprenticeship in the country?
You're absolutely right, Sumit. In fact, in the component manufacturer also today, if you look at the kind of organizations who are engaged in apprenticeship work, are typically the larger of the ones, larger ones actually. Yeah, the medium and the smaller ones are still shying away from this, and when I speak to some of these people, we must understand that these are organizations which are typically run by owners or a set of family members. So they're still very largely family-run businesses or individual-run businesses. And therefore, their ability, the management bandwidth that will be required to support an initiative like this is fairly limited. And they think that if I'm going to take an absolute greenhorn and pay for it, as a stipend, then I'm unlikely, it's going to add to my problem and it's not going to solve to my problem. And they don't have necessarily that perspective that they're actually creating the manpower pool of the future, because they think the larger ones must do it for them. So I think there are two ways to address this. One is, of course, a lot of larger manufacturers must start doing apprenticeship to the full percentage levels, even if they don't need it for their own requirement, but they must pass it on to the small and medium enterprises in the vicinity or in their network, and therefore these people can actually see the value or the benefit of training a person under apprenticeship profiles, essentially. Number one. Second, I think in order for them to actually start having apprentices, it will be useful if we could if the government could create certain initiatives focused on MSMEs. So one of the thoughts that we keep hearing is that, the larger organizations do not probably need that much incentivization, financial incentivization of stipend reimbursements, etc. That can be reduced even if they want to continue and give that push. But for the MSMEs, it can be made slightly more. So there could be a tiered approach in terms, given the size of the business, in terms of the incentives that are there. Second, I think it is very important to create a pool of apprenticeship trainers to be provided to these MSMEs. Some kind of a common resource pool that we need to create. We have to create that resource pool. B, we have to also ensure how do we fund those people. Maybe funding can still be partially funded by the MSMEs themselves. But see, they cannot they do not have the bandwidth for their existing production manpower to get engaged in training. So they will need an external trainer kind of a profile to ensure that the training keeps happening. The production supervisor can still do production and supervise the staff. Okay.
Okay.
But for them to take out time for training a guy who is still learning, they will have to compromise on production volumes in that case. And that is not acceptable in that kind of an environment. So I think these two areas, if they are addressed, I think probably more MSMEs will start getting hooked onto this apprenticeship system.
Do you think there is some bit of lack of awareness and understanding which exists with the sector, or that's not an issue?
No, absolutely. There is still. I think we've, in the previous lockdown, I remember we used to do a workshop, apprenticeship promotion workshop every Friday of the week, and get at least 5 to 6 organizations to participate. And we used to tell them that there's no commitment, just come and learn about it. If you like it, then we'll further progress with one-to-one discussions, etc. But there is a lot of lack of awareness of how the whole apprenticeship works. People know the term apprenticeship, but how is it to be administered? Who has to administer? Who has what role? The nitty-gritties are still a challenge, and the smaller the organization, the greater is the challenge.
So what I can gauge from this is that definitely there has to be some better SOPs to be given to SMEs to encourage them to come on board. Also, we're looking at how do we add to the training bandwidth, which they can, so that they can start investing in apprenticeship, and also to give them more understanding and awareness about what apprenticeship is and how to go about doing it.
Yeah. Great. So in fact, just to add to that, Sumit, the last point, 30 seconds, is that the greater SOPs the financial SOPs could also be translated into providing for those training support. Because there are SMEs that I have spoken who say that I am wanting to do this. I don't need any extra financial support on this. But my problem is, once the apprentice comes, who will take care of it? Okay. Who will take care of that person?
So that's a larger issue for them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Arindam, if I were to just understand that, what's the current apprenticeship count? Because there's a recent document released by Ministry of Skill. It said that the current count for apprenticeship is about 2.34 lakhs, being done by about 18,000 employers. But if I were to look at specific to the automotive sector, what is the current count for apprenticeship, and how many employers today are engaging in apprenticeship in the sector?
So I can give you the almost the exact number as far as the optional trade is concerned, where ASDC gets involved. Sure. We currently have around close to around 30,000 active contracts in the
Fantastic.
Sector.
And with how many employers would be there, like doing apprenticeship in the sector?
So active employers will be close to about 900, and probably around 1,100 plus establishments are registered on the
registered.
So we've got a fairly decent base, and I think on the designated trade, automotive sector does almost equal number. So kind of caught up on that.
Sure. You mentioned about under the optional trade and the designated trades. Isn't that very confusing for the employees that if I were to do apprenticeship, do I get into the optional trade or do I get into the designated trade fund? And how to approach that? Of course, it's a common thing of getting into the portal and registering. But does it not confuse? And at the same time, you also have the other apprenticeship program, which is a graduate apprenticeship training program under the Ministry of Education. So does that create some bit of confusion amongst the employee base?
Yes, it does to that extent, because the entire skill ecosystem in the country has been a system of duality till the common regulator NCVT has now come into action. So I think we will have to live with these kind of because what we are trying to do is we're trying to revamp the system over the last few years with certain legacy being already present. So you can't wish away that legacy, etc. But my sense is that, and since in auto manufacturing, as I said, a lot of our core members are doing designated trades, apprentices under designated trades. So we are approaching this whole thing as that you do apprenticeship. Whether you want to do it under designated or optional is your option, really. But you do apprenticeship, So that's how we are approaching the whole issue. Because I don't want to really say this versus that. So we always approach from a perspective that these are different pathways available. If you were to do this, I will give you the complete support in terms of how you administer the whole process. For these, there are other agencies who will be doing that, and you choose as an establishment. But please do apprenticeship.
That's important. Fine. Take it. Point taken. Arindam, over a period of time, we've seen that now, that there are a lot of organizations which are engaging with women apprentices in factory setup. Are employers today open to engage with women in the roles which have traditionally been dominated by men? If yes, what are these job roles, and where do you see this intake of women apprentices happening?
Yes, this is very important. I think, auto industry is always a challenge that there aren't enough diversity in the workforce. And the larger auto majors have all taken this very seriously. And there are auto manufacturers now whose manufacturing lines have close to 50% women working there on the auto manufacturing lines, We are working with one auto major where a complete welding line is being managed, including the supervisor is completely managed by women. And, it's kind of men versus women kind of a competition, healthy competition that has also ensured in that kind of a setup. But acceptance of women in the larger organizations have definitely increased. We still have a long way to go. The challenge has been, again, coming back to the small, medium enterprises. In many cases, they do not have the necessary infrastructure to support women being part of that organization. There are mindset issues which are still there. As I said, these are organizations where a lot of owners are driving the business. So it depends on the owner, how they perceive it. But we see quite a few organizations who are making an effort. It's also a big challenge given our societal norms, especially in North India. If you were to look at, parents find it very challenging that they want to give approval to a girl child to work in a manufacturing plant, because the parents perceive that this is a male domain. So these are very, very significant challenge. We're doing a very interesting program with one auto major in Gujarat, India, where we're looking at, we created an industry-led curriculum, and one of the key focus there was inclusion, which included women and also people with disability to be engaged as apprentices in that particular curriculum. So though it's been developed by them, but it can be used by any other vehicle manufacturers. It's called vehicle manufacturing operation as a curriculum. In fact, it's a very unique curriculum.
Fantastic. In fact, I was about to ask you the same thing, that, what has been your observation of intake of apprentices from the LGBT or from, let's say, people with disabilities? What's been your observation to it?
So I think
are organizations prepared for having people from such backgrounds?
So I think, if you look at the auto vehicle manufacturers, these are very large organizations, and diversity is a very key element of their cultural practices, and therefore they're absolutely open. So they have had challenges in terms of sourcing people from these backgrounds, with the right kind, who would be willing to work for them. But I think there is no dearth of interest in getting such people into these organizations, and they have the bandwidth and the infrastructure available to manage these diverse workforce in their manufacturing plants. The challenge will be to go down to the next level, again, which is the supplier companies, etc. But I think once the vehicle manufacturers can increase their acceptance of women, people with disability, people from LGBT community, I am pretty sure others will pick up speed.
So, Arindam, last year we saw a lot of reforms happening, and even in the case of education as well. And we saw that degree apprenticeship have been introduced under the new education policy 2020. What role does SSC will play, and how do you plan to implement the degree apprenticeship?
So as far as degree apprenticeship is concerned, I think it's a great initiative, and it's very early days for degree apprenticeship still in India. This is a practice which I think in most European nations it's kind of forms the backbone of the workforce coming into the industry. And it will have a great impact on this entire issue of industry academia bridge issues, that partnership issues. So degree apprenticeship will not only serve the purpose of apprenticeship, but a larger integration of the academics with industry is also possible because of this kind of a program. At ASDC, we are trying to work on a few models right now. We haven't yet started, but we're very keen to go forward. And we do see that, this will get a lot of push with the national education policy also talking about it and taking cognizance of that, and exposing children to skill education right from the school level. This whole, I would say this, stigma attached around skill training or vocational training is something that we need to transform in our societal conditions.
Great. So my last question to you, Arindam, is that what's your recommendation to scale up the apprenticeships in the country?
So I think there has been a lot of work that has already been done. It's the scheme has been made fairly flexible. There are financial incentives which are, I think, quite good. The percentage capping at 10% has been 15%. So I think a lot of these initiatives have been taken. Given the way we are moving ahead, I think one of the elements could be how do we have, let's say, digital learning being acknowledged as basic training for one, because the hands-on work will have to be done at the factory. I mean, you can't really get away with that, but the theory part of the basic training can at least be accepted in a digital format kind of a thing, because the world is moving towards that kind of stuff. Second, I think, to enable industry to adopt apprenticeships, if in addition to, I think the whole scheme of having TPAs or third-party aggregators have been very useful, but I think we'll have to take it to the next level, where maybe at every cluster of, especially let's say in manufacturing situation, because it's on a cluster model, every cluster could be focused on setting up an apprenticeship engagement center kind of a thing, where youngsters who are looking to become an apprenticeship can connect with that center, and the industry who is looking for people for apprentices can come in there. And the apprenticeship support engagement center can also do the hand-holding part of the apprenticeship OJT when it is happening. We're trying to experiment that with one of the industry clusters that we are trying to work with. And I think that will engage, and going back to your earlier questions on MSME, I think this enabling feature of apprenticeship execution is something which will be very critical in addition to the fiscal benefits, etc. that are there. So right now we have addressed the fiscal support kind of a thing, but non-fiscal support in terms of how the actual training process can be concluded, the assessments can be standardized. Those are still work in progress, and I think if those are given some more policy directions, this will strengthen the entire apprenticeship scheme.
So I think your focus is say that it's more to do with the ease of doing apprenticeship. How easy do we make for them? What kind of a support that can be given along with the fiscal support that would help in scaling the apprenticeship in the country?
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Arinal. They were very valid recommendations, some very interesting points coming from you. We hope we've served the purpose of encouraging more and more employers to come and take up apprenticeship, and as well as more youth to come and take up apprenticeship to make their careers. I thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Sumit, for having me today, and it's always a pleasure to speak to you, and especially on apprenticeship. Thank you.
Thank you.